Hello there, it's Monday night at time of recording, which means it's time for another episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. If you're new to the show, welcome aboard. This is the show where we look to intertwine the stories in your life relating to people, events, moments, scenarios, to the music that you love, whether that's songs, bands, albums, soundtracks, theme tunes, whatever. Whether that's your first dance at a wedding, the album you first bought, or the song that you associate with your uni life or your friends. My guest on this week's show is the brilliant Nisaa Robinson. She takes us on a unique journey through her life, becoming a counsellor, becoming a therapist, to ultimately all things self-mastery. She's got a really unique way of telling her story, so I won't give too much away now. You can check it out for yourself. But needless to say, it was another brilliant conversation full of value, and not just from a music space, but from applying stuff to your own life as well. And just on the music, there'll be a lot of references and pointers to go off from, which were even new to me, and something I think that you'll really enjoy. So sit back, enjoy the show, and feel supersonic. Welcome to this edition of Soundtrack of Your Life. This is the show where we get people on to talk about songs, albums, soundtracks, theme tunes, whatever you name it in their life. They're interspersed with stories, people, events, scenarios in their life. Because I believe we've all got stories to tell when it comes to music. It might be a first dance at your wedding, the song from your college days, that album that brings you back to your teenage years. Whatever it may be, this is the show to share your stories on. So I'm delighted on this week's show to have the great Nisaa Robinson. Nisaa, I think your background is in counselling and in coaching, but today is all about the world of self-mastery. Nisaa, it's great to have you on. If you just want to introduce yourself to the people.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on. And if it's okay, I want to introduce myself a bit as I talk through the stories and kind of the soundtrack of my life, so to speak, right?
Perfect.
And for starters, if we can remember the Michael Jackson "Rock with You"
Oh,
song,
what a tune to start with.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's like that's what I want you to do. Like that's what I'd like for us to do, right? It's kind of rock with me through this like story and expression of from my perspective, going from uncertain in life and about who I am, uh, and journeying through growth and transformation and getting to a place where I understand that we have this unstoppable power really that is within us that can help us to manifest the life that we absolutely love. So that's what I'd want us to do. And for me, as soon as I even hear the title of the song, I can hear it, in my head. And got the beat going. So that's what, like, if we can just rock with each other a little bit here. And so curious, as folks hear this and are able to listen in, who has an experience where you went through life in an area that we call, the inner city here in the States, urban areas. And if that doesn't resonate with you just yet to know exactly what I'm talking about, we might say the hood. Okay. How many folks can relate to that. And in the midst of having that kind of experience, which was, my experience growing up in the inner city where there was a lot going on in the environment and a lot of challenges being presented, and one might say not very many prospects. Individuals didn't necessarily dream beyond what they could even see. Many, of those that I grew up with never even left, the area, the kind of core area where they lived. And so, in the midst of all of that, I saw crime being committed. It was happening right outside the door. I was able to live through witnessing what unaddressed substance use and mental health disorders looked like, the effects of that. And in the midst of all of this turmoil and chaos and trauma, as we know to call it these days, and whether we want to say big T trauma, little T trauma, happening, there are also, we're children. I'm a child. I'm growing up in this environment. I'm trying to answer the big questions because that's what we do. Like we're trying to figure out who am I? What am I? Whose
Especially
am I?
exactly, especially from that
What?
early age, right? Where we have no filters at that point. Whatever we see, we naturally question, because a lot of it is new. A lot of it we're trying to get our own understanding versus the messaging that we're getting from caregivers, the environment, the people around us. So absolutely, I guess anyone that's around children or have been around children can see the same, right? Whatever they think or feel, they will just express. So yeah, we're definitely gonna
Yeah.
have that curiosity from a very early age.
Yeah, and we understand that our belief systems being developed,
Yeah, yeah,
during
yeah.
this time frame. Those answers to those big questions, which will shape and drive how it is that I see myself,
Mm.
and how I see others, and how I see the world. And what happened for me was that I developed a faulty belief system. The thing is, I understand today that we can have faulty beliefs and healthy ones, positive and negative, if we want to call it that, serving and non-serving, all happening at the same time. And we live that out in different ways in our experiences. However, if I focus in on, I ended up developing a belief system where I wasn't sure that I was enough. Like I didn't know if I
Mm.
was enough. I didn't know if I was worthy. I didn't know if I really mattered. I was alienated. Was rejected in different ways growing up. However, um, my mother, the pillar and strength that she is, and I'll tap into another song here that, if you are familiar with it, you might think, okay, well, where are we going with that? But it's Tupac, "Dear Mama."
Right,
And
right,
so,
okay.
not every song that I share, it's like, the whole piece of the song relates to me. Just that's kind of how it goes, right?
Hmm.
But speaking about the strength of women, in my family, I come from a long line of women that we might identify as strong Black women. How people speak, right? And I greatly appreciate that, and being able to see that as I was growing up. And but at the same time, she had her own challenges,
Hmm.
and at some point decided that she was going to step into the courage necessary to do her own growth and development journey, so that we could get to a place where things were more healthy, and advantageous, right, for upbringing and living out our lives. And another song, and this takes me back to, so my dad owned a well, how do you say, it was a teen club. We'll say it that way. It was a teen
Okay.
club. Like it was specifically developed so that teenagers would have somewhere to go that was fun, off the
All right.
street, but they didn't have to try to be getting sneaking into the nightclubs that was for the adults and all this sort of thing, right? So we had that, and some of the songs that come to mind that I remember that would get played there, are the old school hip hop and rap songs, and Ice Cube's "It Was a Good Day" is a song that comes to mind, because it tapped into, like, that effort that my parents was, they were living through at the
Hmm.
time, again, to do their own work, to do their own soul work, and figure out ways to show up, and so that their children had different opportunities, even though we were in the midst of the space that I previously described. And so that's what I also, oh my goodness, my dad, I can remember all of the albums, like
Oh
literal
yeah.
vinyl, you know albums, records, crates and crates and crates of these. And my dad was a DJ. And
Oh,
if you're
nice.
familiar with the recovery community, when we speak to, folks who are choosing to live lives of recovery from alcohol or substance use and things of that nature, they had their own different clubs and like lounges and spaces that they would go to, to be able to hang out and have parties and things like that were without substances.
Nice.
And my dad used to DJ those. And so we spent a lot of time uh, tagging along, being at the recovery community parties. Um, he also did things like chaperone at the skating rink, and so I can remember all the days. So a lot, there are so many songs
I was going to
that I
say, it
could
sounds
actually
like
bring
a
up.
whole
That
gold
the
mine
music
of
is a part of our life.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Music was a significant and is a significant part, and was a significant part of our lives. On some level, I mean, at a club, dad was DJing. Um, we went to the skating rink all the time. Of course, there's music playing there, all the songs. I participated in talent shows.
Oh, wow.
There, I had a period. I was in a dance group. Yeah, I was in I mean, all the things. I was, on the drill team. Uh, we were in talent shows. We had a dance group. I even there was a phase of my life where I was rapping. It's difficult for me to say I was a rapper. You know what I mean? Like it just that
I'm
that
tempted
doesn't
to ask to
land.
give you a live demo here, but I know that's putting you on the spot. But
Yeah, yeah, we're not. I'm gonna show you just how just the reason why it's so challenging to even call myself a rapper because I barely remember any raps that I even came up with. So that shows you how short-lived and how insignificant that was. But either way, like that was the life. Music was helping to shift the mood, and
mm,
shift emotions, bring about experiences of fun and relationship that we otherwise wouldn't have had, growing up. And, when I tie these pieces together for me, this is all happening in the midst of, again, a period of time where I'm trying to learn and understand who I am.
yeah,
And there's this voice in my head that says that I'm meant for greatness. Now I don't know if those are the exact words that it was saying, but there was that sense, right? It's like this,
mm,
and I believe that we all have this actually. Like I actually believe we all have this on some level. But as a result of what was going on around me, and as I got older and started to understand a little bit more, as I'm watching how people are moving in life, it started to get that voice started to be more like a whisper.
okay,
And sometimes I wasn't even sure I heard it at all. It got to this place where I just really wasn't quite sure that life was worth living,
mm,
and how much meaning and value and purpose there really was, and if there were really people around who genuinely cared, or were they all just playing a game. And in that phase, especially teenage years, middle school years, things like that, we do a lot of comparing of ourselves, to other people. And so in my own experience, it's like I'm looking around and I'm comparing. I clearly don't fit in. Like I'm clearly different. Clearly the weird bird here, and I'm comparing myself. In the
yeah,
Sinead O'Connor song, nothing compares to
classic.
you. Yeah, right. And it's the flow, it's the melody, it's the music that is playing, and it's also it is the essence
Mm.
of her voice even in that song that just speaks still even to this day to my heart, and to
It's an
my
incredible
soul.
piece, isn't it? I mean, it
Yeah.
obviously got talked about again recently due to her, sad passing. But just even if you don't know her discography or anything else about her, everyone just associates that song to her, and that was just a platform for her to
Mhm.
be the pioneer, not just as a music artist, but as a speaker on the you know various fronts that she had. It's this incredible piece just
Mhm.
to you know earmark your career with.
Yeah, and just those words, nothing compares to you. It's like it's the truth, right? But how do we get to a place where we can understand that and live it out? The reality is we get conditioned, like we were taught, we get conditioned to
Mm.
think that we're supposed to be the same. And so as we're looking, I mean, clearly on the surface of things, we're not the same. Like, so we look different, but then we try to talk like other people, and behave like other people, dress like them, so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, some of the cultural pieces of things, okay, and I'm not saying there's anything negative about any of that. But what happens, what I learned and what my experience was thinking that I'm somehow supposed to be the same as the other people that are around me, and learning later on that it's about complementing each other, not being the same.
Mm.
So we're meant for community and we're meant to complement each other, but we're not meant to be the same. And so that if that is true, and I believe it is, then there's no comparison. None. There's there's no one to compare yourself with. And so again, like those words, they just they ring through with so much um, just freedom. It's
Yes.
it's freedom in those words.
Indeed, the song itself you could even compare to um, the idea that that title might read that it's you saying it to someone else in the hope of,
Mm-hmm.
no one compares to you
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship sense. But as you say, you
Mm-hmm.
flip that meaning to go, well, no,
Yeah.
you look introspectively. Like, as you said, we have this kind of duality of core human needs. On the one hand, we have the significance, which is we are distinct and unique from everyone else that we see. Yet we also have that need for connection to other
Mm-hmm.
people. We're a tribal species where we want that
Yeah.
togetherness. We spend much of our lives looking for that. But the fact that we can apply a different meaning to the song, just from the title,
Yeah.
says it all, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the next point which you've made. So it's identifying who the people are also in my life, and who are the members of the community that I am to be a part of. At large, it's global. Like it's the world. We're all one people. And then there are also people who are your people, like how we kind of say that these days, that you'll find your people. And the thing is, once you do, then yeah, nothing compares to that either.
Mm.
Like once I find my people, then I also, it helps to reduce and decrease that pulling, that yearning that is on the inside of a person trying to figure out where it is that they fit in. you know and so for me, fast forward to more of a adult life. There's world of education, institution, and business, and being an employee, wife, mother, all the things there, and living all that out. The responsibilities, the, if we want to use the word obligations,
Mm.
that word has such a connotation to it.
That's a
But
different podcast, I think.
yeah, so living all that out, I came to myself at one point and realized I'm not quite sure I know who I am. In the midst of living and giving and pouring and serving and being all the things to all of the others, I'm not really sure who I am. I don't know what my hopes and dreams and purpose, I don't know what these things are
Yeah.
actually for me. And that voice that, like I said, became a whisper, and sometimes I wasn't sure if it was even present at all, about this, being greatness and supposedly supposed to contribute to the world, in some sort of meaningful, productive way. Well, what is that? Like, what is that? What does it mean? How do I figure out what it is? How do I find a direction for all of that? And a more recent song comes to mind for me, which is Connor Price, Violet.
Okay.
And so, if you're not familiar with that song, I love the beat. I love the beat of that song. And are you ready to believe in yourself and decide to activate and act in alignment with what it is that you believe is meant for your life. Like, we might call it, being like on high, on cloud nine, or feeling very high of ourselves, or thinking high of ourselves, or something like that. But it's like, no. And that's when you hear the song, like, that'll make sense. Is what, like, those pieces there will make sense. It's like, I'm not thinking too much of myself. I am believing what is already true of myself and of the value that I am and that I bring to the world. And for someone who went through not being sure if they were enough, not really sure if life was meaningful, what do I have to give? I've already lived through life making plenty of decisions that were poor decisions, which continue to deteriorate, at this belief that, there's greatness and meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And how and why. And somehow that's going to come from me when I've made a mess of all these other things, right? So the audacity to think that you're going to live out something that you would put the label of greatness on, that's supposed to contribute to other folks' lives, is quite something to ponder, right? And so that song, and again, it's the flow of that song, it's the beat, as well as the words that remind me, and hopefully will remind others, that, like, you already have what's in you. You already have it. It's already there. I lived through, and we all are just living through the experiences necessary for us to come into agreement with the truth that this is already there, and you are greatness, and we're meant for greatness.
That's a really profound way of putting things. I mean, I think you've hit upon a real cornerstone of the work we do on ourselves, in that we look a lot of the time externally, again, for answers, that kind of quick fix solution, straightforward solution, easy solution, when first of all we have it. Now, whether we like it or not, whatever that answer might be, it's inside of us. And that comes with the questioning, the compassionate asking, and the practice as well. You mentioned, how can you be living that higher purpose, or be called for a higher purpose, when your subconscious is looking at all this proof going, yeah, but you messed that up, and look at that, and this kind of thing. And even, today I was just writing a piece myself about, the more we practice these things from a place of, you mentioned your mum having the courage to start with her self-development work. When we can do that and put in those pieces of practice with almost that innate faith, or sense of, like, okay, if I don't give this a go to work on myself, how am I going to know? It's giving your subconscious more proof to the contrary of its thought. So when it says, oh no, that's not going to work for me, or it worked for others, it's not going to work for me. But as we give it more practice and thought, and also the understanding that, okay, you might make mistakes here and there. We're not, no one's mistake free, however much work you put in on yourself. But it's what I call the gradual raising of your self-worth. Because now you're doing things from your perspective, your own drive, rather than just being told to do X, Y, Z, or believing that you should. Which is when you bring your innate answer to the conscious practice together. So your subconscious meets your conscious. And when the two work in sync, that's when you begin to feel the automatic shifts.
Yeah. And that is a nice segue. It actually, brings me to, so there's one other song before I shift there that comes to my mind, which is, the Ghetto Boys, My Mind Playing Tricks on Me song.
Okay.
And that title, in and of itself, sums up the experience up to
Right.
the point where I was met with the truth that you just explained. The truth that, hey, your subconscious is at work here. It's driving this thing for the most part. You have a conscious, though, that you can utilize, that you can train your subconscious with, so that your belief system, and therefore thought patterns, behavior patterns, etc., begin to come into alignment with the new truth and belief you want to have. about yourself. But up until that point, it's like my mind is playing tricks on me. I'm seeing things that are not really what they are. That's how it goes. Like if I'm seeing through a lens of distortion, then if you start with a wrong premise, you get a wrong answer. Like that's just how that. So if my mind's playing tricks on me because I have this distorted, faulty belief system now that I'm operating with, yes, sure, because we are complex, beautiful creations. So things are not all cut and dry. As I'm living through this life, there are glimpses of hope. There are opportunities, that are before me. There are positives, absolutely. But they were not outweighing what I would put in the negative category, right? And they
Yep.
were not outweighing the internal experience that I was having. So what happened for me is that I came to a place where I was at a level of desperation and depression. And the thing for me was I have this what we might call type A personality. Some people might say if you get into all of that, uh, for me, it's important to be reliable and dependable, like integrity, all of those things matter to me. And so I was showing up. I was showing up, for all the things. I was reliable, dependable. I was involved. I was engaged. I was living a life that from the outside looking in, unless you had some level of true depth of understanding of human behavior, you would not have expected or suspected that I was dealing with these things. Even in my own internal experience and having some of that understanding myself, didn't realize that I was dealing with these things. But the reality is, as today we would call it, like functional or functioning, person who's dealing with depression,
Mm.
right? Whether it's meeting the clinical diagnosis or not, it was present.
Yes.
And it was getting harder and harder for me to push through that, that internal experience. And like I said, I wasn't quite sure people really cared. So where am I supposed to go with that? And just when I got to the place where I had decided that, well, it appears as though everybody's playing a game. Like
Yes.
maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe this pie in the sky, life is full of meaning and purpose and it's beautiful and abundant. Like maybe these thoughts that I'm having are from La La Land or something. And maybe you got a problem. Maybe what's real is what you're seeing people do is, use each other. They say they love and care about each other, but what they're doing is, get you in my back pocket. So then when I need something, I can call on you and you'll feel guilty. And so you'll go ahead and do it. Like we're going to play each other. That's what it looked like.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, well, maybe I'm the one that's wrong here. So maybe if I'm the one that's wrong and this is really what life is, then okay, then let's just play this game. And I got right to that place where I had basically committed to myself that I guess I'm just going to pretend and be what I think I'm watching other people be. And I was able to experience a coaching and mentoring training process that it in an indescribable manner
Right.
completely shifted my life. It
Wow.
changed my mindset, belief system, paradigm, all of it. And in short order. And I know the way we speak about change, we often say change takes, time and it's a process. And it is a process. It is. But the way we speak about it sometimes, people actually say, well, change takes a long time, and it takes a long time to yes and no. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes and no. And in that particular experience, see, what happened was I was ready to be different. I was tired, like
Right.
really, I was tired,
Okay.
And so when I was met with this new information, which is what we've actually already been talking about here, it is understanding that 95% or better of your experience is being driven by your subconscious all day, every day. You have absolutely no clue of that, especially if that's not something that no one's ever talked with you about. You don't know that. You don't know what that means. And if I try to use a different word and say, well, your belief system's driving everything that you think, say, and do. Again, nobody's sitting around talking about their belief systems at the dinner table. I mean, we do nowadays, it's happening, nowadays, right? But that wasn't happening, previously. So I learned that if I utilize my conscious and my ability to manage my cognitions, that I could actually shift and change the thought patterns I had, the emotional experience I was having, the picture that I had of myself, of the world, of what was possible for me, and tap back into that which that I thought had was gone, as far as this whisper. Um, that was the game changer for me. If I did those things, that I could create transformation, and we're talking transformation, not change, because when something transforms, it's not the same. It's no longer even capable of going back to the other thing.
Yeah.
You know, a butterfly cannot become a caterpillar, but we can change patterns and behaviors and things like that sometimes, and then choose to go back. We could
Yes.
regress, revert back to what we want. That's not what I'm talking about with the experience that I had. It was a
Right.
full transformation. I couldn't be the person I used to be if I wanted to be. Trust me, I've tried.
Okay, you're right. Wow. So where did you even find this? You said it came along in your life. It sounds like,
Yeah,
where did it
here,
come from?
so interestingly, so both of my parents
Uh-huh.
have worked in the field of behavioral health,
Right.
and so addressing and helping people who have experienced substance use disorders and things of that and everything that comes with that. I'll just kind of sum it up.
Mm.
Everything that comes with that, including helping individuals who are justice system involved.
Mm.
And so the long story short is that my father created a program that was meant to assist individuals who I was going to say, who we might say or call the most difficult or the most challenging to help change
Right.
their behavior. The reality is that's exactly what it was, though. Like me trying to use language that feels better today, but the way it was presented was the people that folks would give up on and say that there's no hope for them.
Right. Right.
Those are the
Right.
folks that he was charged with helping. And so he, created a program, and it's called Manifesting Excellence Now. He created that program, and the outcomes were astounding, that they
Wow.
were getting with the individuals they were working through that with. And so, with some on the feedback and ongoing adjustments to the program, he developed it in a couple of different ways. In areas that was focused on men, an area that was focused on women, an area that was from a spirituality basis as well. And so that is the program that I initially went through. It
Wow.
was a program that he designed. Yeah.
As I say, it sounds so profound. You say to describe that sort of transformation journey he had, and as you said, that kind of one-way transformation in that you're now completely in a different persona, identity, etc. And that if you wanted to go back, that's not even possible.
Mm.
So as you said, it's now, as you said, it sounds like you're interlinking all those pieces that you had together from before, of like your belief system via cognitive inputs leads to your thoughts, leads to your patterns, leads to your states that you all thought were all independent. And as you said, when you couldn't make a heads or tails of it, you would look at other people going, okay, maybe they've got the answer, or that's the way it is, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm the outlier. But again, when you introspectively look at going, it might be the case at the moment that you're seeing it that way, but you can change that. And that's you changing it,
Yes.
not other people, right? They've all got to be nicer to me or whatever it might be. It's you going, they will do what they do. That's up to them. What I can do is, as you said, go through
Yes.
this process, journey, etc. It sounds very similar that, so it sounds that we've had quite similar journeys in that respect. I had the same kind of experience with my own coach, and that he wasn't teaching like rocket science or like here's the hidden secret or the answer. It's all in plain sight. It's just
Right.
in places that you don't want to go into at the moment, which is fine, but that's where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you get to put it all together in your way. So it's not to say, right, because
Mm-hmm.
let's say you went on your own journey, that I've got to replicate that same journey. No, no,
Right.
no, you do what
Right.
works for you. So to see utilize that process sounds really quite amazing. The way, especially if you've interweaved the song into it, is really cool.
Yeah. We've continued to um, expand on that particular program, and I've actually utilized some of those principles and practices and exercises with permission
Mhm.
in into the programs that I provide with individuals as well. And earlier, asked me to introduce myself, and the thing is, I am Nisaa Robinson. That's who I am. I'm Nisaa Robinson. Everything that I would say after that is either a relationship that I hold dear or a way that I believe that I'm supposed to show up in love and service in the world. And so I'm a wife of 21 years to my high school sweetheart. We've been together 26 years. I am a mother to an emerging adult daughter. I am a servant, a daughter, sister, friend, uh, fill in the blank with all those relational pieces, right? And I believe people have different views about purpose in life. And
Mm.
my view is that my purpose does not change. Like I've heard people speak, they'll say, well, sometimes your purpose changes. That's fine. I don't have any issue with anyone believing that way. For me personally, I don't believe my purpose changes. I believe my purpose is to love and to serve. And that I do that, the way that I do that may show up differently
Mm.
depending upon which phase or stage of life that I'm in, the methods that are being used, or some modalities or whatnot that are being used to help me manifest that love and service into the world might be different in space and time and periods and phases of life. Right now, the phase of life that I'm in is that looks like I'm a director, author, speaker,
All
therapist,
sorts going on.
facilitator. Yeah. um, and I'm focused on the area of behavioral health and behavior modification with individuals to help them to break the cycle of burnout and
Mm.
master their mindsets so that they can achieve their success goals and manifest a life they absolutely love rather than living one that you want to run away from. And so again, like that looks like a lot of different things, but that's Nisa, that's Nisa in a nutshell. But all of it comes down to love and service still, for me, no matter which area we're looking at.
That's awesome. I mean, I did say in the promos to this show, this is going to be another enlightening one, and I should sound clip that last minute to um, showcase people what this is all about. He said, like, one of the great aspects of you, that I've seen of you is that you're very consistent with that messaging. All the things you've spoken about so far about, your own power, not just blankly manifesting it, but manifesting with a sense of purpose, with a sense of, your tagline is brilliant. Go be great. Whether I see it as a sign off or a messaging tagline, whichever, is like that's a real great ethos to operate from. And that's what I thought. Look, this is going to be a great conversation that we are indeed having. So just tying it back towards your musical journey a bit more, you've mentioned so many great pointers and tracks so far. Are there any
Mhm.
songs or albums, etc., or bands or artists at the moment that link to certain emotions in your space?
So there are a couple that I that I was going to include, uh, that tie a little bit more to the emotions from tapping into where I was in the past and different
Okay.
past points in my journey, but that I choose to stay connected with so that I am reminded and that I'm clear about it is not even in my own um, making that I am where I am today.
Right.
Except for that, I have decided, I have decided to come into agreement with what was already true. And so there's a song by K9, who is a Christian rap artist, and it's called Parking Lot. And the piece in this song is that one of the underlying messages is that here I am, I'm watching myself, I'm sitting in this situation that I know I have no business being in. Like that's what it's like. I would start, but I'm not gonna start rapping the song. Um,
Oh man, should have let you gone on to that. Damn it.
I know, right? So, but it's like here I am asking God to help get me out of a jam, get me out of a situation that I knew I didn't have any business being in the first place. But I trust you and I believe you and I know that you will do it because you've done it time and time again before, right? And so that song there, because the thing is this, it does not matter how much self-mastery is the key to manifesting your purpose and dreams. I firmly believe that. Self mastery is not a place that I attain to, some place that I arrive at where I no longer have work to continue to do on myself. So, along this journey, I'm going to aim at self mastery, and sometimes I'm still going to miss the marks
Mm.
along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm even maybe going to get that sense in me that says, that's not the right move. Are you sure you want to do that? And I may find myself doing the thing anyway. And then I
Yeah.
can use things like the memory of this song, or sometimes I literally will start rapping the song in my head to remind me that, okay, you see where you are right now, and you need to figure out how to get yourself out of this. Whether it is an emotional space, whether it's finding myself in a mood, because I've done some different shares, of videos and things at times too, where it's like, okay, what is the people are doing all the people things right now out in the world, and this is touching parts of my being that are pricking emotions and spaces that are connected to the former way that I used to function, because it isn't as if some of those things are not still present. We have a brain with real neural pathways and real neural connections that remember how it's supposed to react to that similar type of stimuli when people show up and do the people things, right?
But
So
that's
when
such
this
that's such a key point, just to sort of chip in there for a second, that
yeah.
maybe a lot of this is the work sometimes is mistaken from that idea of let's get rid of something, let's destroy
Mm-hmm.
it, let's do this. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but that's half the point in itself. When you phrase things like it's a fight or it's a battle, then immediately you pitch yourself going, if I don't win this fight or battle or war or whatever, then what? But when we frame it
Mm-hmm.
from the space of there's acceptance there and the idea that we can process it, we can meet it, whichever, and it's still there,
Mm-hmm.
that next time when it does appear, we can go, okay, I get why it's there. I don't need to destroy it. That, in fact, actually, counterintuitively, raises things like your self-mastery, your self-worth, because now you're looking at all the bits of yourself, not the bits that are convenient and nice, whilst you ignore all the bits that you want to tuck away into shadow and this kind of thing. But when you practice that kind of thing, where your brain will, well, actually your whole system will still react in the same manner to
Mm-hmm.
things that either piss you off or get you angry or whatever emotion comes up. And before you might have gone, oh, okay, I can't experience that. I'll hold it in and I'll put that away. But on the flip side, we're still getting triggered, but now we've got another alternative. Rather than to just acquiesce to that, we can go, okay, why am I feeling like this? That's okay. There's another alternative I can do with this instead. I can accept it, I can meet it, I can see what I'm trying to get at here, and therefore we accept those parts of us, of ourselves, and essentially integrate the self back together. Because that's essentially one of our directives of the subconscious. It doesn't like these split patterns and split parts of us that are triggered. It wants to bring it back whole.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we forget that, because we're so focused on, right, just focus on the good bits of me and this kind of thing. But, the truth can be in those darker parts of us. But again, that again needs the practice and the self-mastery as you've talked about. And as you said, sometimes we hit it and sometimes we miss the mark. I akin it to a balancing act. Especially like if you remember like the trapeze or guys on like the high wire, it's like, if you watch them go, then they attain that balance for a few seconds, like, while they're balancing on whatever it is, then, they attain that perfect balance for a few seconds before they invariably have to self-correct themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing goes for our journey. We're all looking for that tiny spot where we're perfectly in balance and want a continuous that being continuously like that for ages, when in truth we're always just slightly correcting. We wobble and then we correct ourselves again, and that's what we're constantly doing. But in our mind we're like, right, we want to be just balanced and still, like, can I get that please? But it's like, well, we're all just trying to correct along the way.
Yeah, I think folks have a certain view about what self-mastery even is.
Yeah.
And, self-mastery, one way that I've heard it stated, which resonates so much for me, is that self-mastery is the condition whereby your body is your servant and not your master.
Yes,
and
yes.
If we think body as you're a whole person, so we're talking your whole self when we use the word body, mind, will, emotion, spirit, etc.
Yeah.
Self-mastery being the condition whereby your body is your servant and not your master. So, like, that's what we're speaking about, and that's what you just got finished describing. And the thing is that we speak to even work-life balance, especially kind of pulling in the burnout piece of things there. My preference is to use the word harmony, and that's what you're describing, like the dance, even the motion of I'm gonna walk this wire, but I can't just stay in one frame, in one position and do that even. And I can't even do that. I have to flow. Like, I actually have to flow. I have to allow my body to move. I have to allow certain parts of me to be in certain parts of space while others are in other parts of space. So, and that's the truth of how we can live out life in a way where we manifest a life that we actually love, is through harmony. People are seeking balance. And at least when I just go from the base definition of the word balance, that would mean that all areas of my life are getting the same level of time, energy, attention, and focus. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily desirable or favorable for that to happen and me have a life that I actually love and appreciate. But what is going to happen is I have the right level, an appropriate level of time, energy, effort, attention in the various buckets of life, if we want to call it that,
yes,
that creates a life that I actually appreciate. That's harmony, like a choir,
exactly,
where each person has a different octave and whatnot that they're singing, or an orchestra that's playing, or what have you, right? Like, it's all different. They're coming from different angles and depths, but it's beautiful. And that's what, we want to try to do with life.
Yeah, and one thing that struck me as you were talking at the end there was that harmony is going to look different for everybody. Just like we were saying before, you can see one transformative journey and think, right, I've got to copy that. No, you've got your own thing. Now, it might look similar by nature, pattern, whatever, but the ethos is still your own. And I think sometimes we still even get stuck with the idea that I have a fixed plan, or this range of buckets that I want to fulfill, etc. But really, what my work has shown me is that I see people create goals and go, right, I'll get that goal, that's what I want. And where I want to come from is, okay, why do you want that in the first place? Have you truly asked yourself why? Not in an accusing way, you're not trying to debate against yourself, but it's more kind of like, well, are you wanting something because of what you're seeing externally, perceiving externally, cognitively? Your conscious is going, right, let's get that thing for whatever reason. The reason's out there. But instead of you going, actually, that thing I said I wanted, I might not actually want that. That's okay for a start. It doesn't mean you're indecisive, or you can't make your mind up, or you're wishy-washy. It's an example of the perspective of having that flexible based thinking to go, instead of like hanging your self-worth and self-mastery on all those goals. It's like, well, okay, I can introduce more flexibility, and then I can work towards that goal. And if I change my mind about it along the way to something else, that's okay. But at the moment we're fixated with like, right, I've got to go for that. Now, it could be that you do all this work and that goal ends up still being, I still want that, whatever that might be. That's great. Now you're coming from a place of higher self-worth, because now you're making that decision for yourself with still that continued practice of, okay, I can work toward that, like I was saying, And if I change my mind, that's also okay. Now again, people might rebuke that, going, yeah, but you can't just do what you want. You know, you got other people to consider. You got family, you got partner, you got kids, whatever. That's fine. What we're saying here is that it's striking that balance, because we probably all come from the perspective of goals of like, I want a better life in whatever capacity, better job. If you're single, finding a partner, better body shape, weight, money, whatever. But when we look at that internal balance of going, okay, I've got to approach these things myself, so I've got to give myself into it, rather than, right, what do other people want? Because now you're giving, you know, again, that external value to your worth again. This is all again just practice. This is some things we probably heard before and gone, no, it probably works for other people, not me. That could be your brain in self-protection mode, or your system, I should say, sorry. Until you have that dialogue with your subconscious to go, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. And, you know, it essentially gives some tangibility to that subconscious thought you had before. Like you were mentioning, you had that calling, that whisper going on. And when you realize moments to catch that consciously and audibly, to go, okay, you know, how do I, you know, flesh this out a bit more? That's when I call it your possibilities begin to open up.
Absolutely. And, you know, we all are living out our conditioning. All
Yes.
of us. And that leads me to one of the other songs, which is by Social Misfits, and it's called Coogi Sweater. That's Coogi, Coogi
Okay.
Sweater. And their name of the group alone, Social Misfits, right? So we're all living out this conditioning, and to decide that you're going to operate outside of it begins to position you in a way to where you appear to be a misfit. Again, like with the whole community and complimenting each other versus comparing each other and all that, but we're the goals even that we have identified that we want at times are the result of conditioning. Whether someone specifically said to us, this is, because sometimes that's the case, like, you know,
Oh,
parents
yes.
or whatever, it's like, this is what you need to do.
The master
This is
plan.
the path you need to go. Other times it's just the conditioning of the environment and the upbringing, and you're looking at people and you just have this social group, and if I do this, then that doesn't fit with that. So we are just living out our conditioning until we come into the opportunity to be enlightened, to realize that we can choose the conditioning. Now we'll say things like, we don't want to live on autopilot. My understanding and what I've learned about the way the brain works is there's going to be an autopilot,
Yeah.
because that's the way the brain works. What matters is, and what I want to do is step into the power of utilizing the way the brain works to decide, what do I want it set on?
Yes.
I want it set on growth and abundance. I want it set on positivity. I want it set on believing that I can accomplish goals that I have identified that I want. I want to create that as the autopilot, because there's going to be one, right?
Oh, I
So
like
how
that.
do I do?
Autopilot. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, like there's going to be one. Like it's the thing that we say. We say a lot, at least here in the States. You got to, try not to live on autopilot. It's like, well, the reality is that part of the brain's job is to conserve energy. So it's going to take in information. It's going to automate that information so that you don't have to calculate every single decision you need to. And I'm talking every single people. We
Yeah.
don't realize how many decisions we make all day. If our brain didn't do that job of taking in information and automating it and creating patterns for us, and then creating neural pathways to say, when you see this or feel this, you do this, then we would be on overload.
Well, we'd be
That's what would
burnt out
happen.
straight away.
So, yeah, so if that's what we call autopilot, like that's the brain doing its job. But the conditioning for us to get to the place where we have the type of autopilot that we do becomes ours to guide. Once we are enlightened with this type of information that we're talking about, here today, and that song, it talked, so just the whole Coogi Sweater thing, it's usually very colorful, lots of weaving in together of different colors and shades and things like that. And that is our lives, like and that has been my life. That's what I've come to learn and to appreciate. And I know it sounds cute to hear people say like what I'm getting ready to say, but it's the truth for me, is that I have learned to come to the place where I have gratitude for
Mm-hmm.
the adversity that I've experienced in my life. I'm grateful for it. I'm great because we could say, the struggles, the obstacles, they created problems for me. We could go down that road. We could say those things. And when I say what I'm saying, I'm not discounting any challenge that I've experienced. I'm not saying some things that happened that we would categorize as wrong or hurtful. I'm not saying they were good. I'm not saying any of that. I'm speaking from a place of radical acceptance that says things were as they were and they are as they are. And I can decide how whether I'm going to live out influence and impact in a way that is helpful and beneficial as a result of what I have been through, or I'm going to do in the opposite and live out what is detrimental. And life is 10% what happens and 90% what I do with it. And again, that doesn't discount anything that anybody's been through, because I want to hear, I'm a therapist by training and credential. So I want people to understand I'm not saying that something that someone experienced that was horrible was okay. What I'm saying is it happened. And if it's no longer happening, what I am living out today is the effect of what I did with it in my mind. Now, I may not know that I have a choice, but hopefully, listening to a conversation like this, you're coming to the awareness that you do have a choice, and you can decide to live in radical acceptance. You can live in the level of forgiveness for yourself and for others. You can decide that the conditioning that I had doesn't work for me.
That's
It's
awesome.
fine. Like, it is what it is, but that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to come up with a new set of conditioning factors and train my subconscious mind to develop the patterns and the habits that will serve me. And so, that's really what came up as you were talking just now. And I wanted to connect it back because this is an important point for me. We talk about manifestation
Mm.
often, it's a very common word we hear now. And you
Some
made a
might say
point earlier
overused.
about, some might say, and you made a comment earlier about, I believe you were speaking to what you thought I meant when I say the word manifest, and you were right on. When I'm speaking about manifestation, I am not saying the making statements and believing that something's going to be. Now, I'm not discounting that piece of it. What I am saying is you bring your mind, will, emotions, and spirit into alignment with your vision, values, and goals. And this is how you manifest whatever it is you fill in the blank. And the
Hmm.
process of doing that is going to require self mastery, because
Yes.
self mastery is the key to manifesting your purpose and dreams.
Wow. I mean, that's if that's not another 20 seconds of clip-worthy content, I don't know what is. To be honest, the whole conversation is so far. I mean, to emphasize the point, people might be sitting there going, yeah, but how does that work for me?
Mhm.
Well, the clues that I guess you might be hearing here is the idea that beyond the buzzwords that you hear, I mentioned that it might be an overused
Mhm.
word because sometimes it may be something that's readily put out there for the sake of being put out there, if that makes sense. Like if everybody's been told to manifest, people might use that as a byproduct for just dreaming or stating or wishing or this kind of thing. I mean, to go off on a very random tangent here, I think it was like the subject of a Family Guy episode where Brian the dog writes a book. Was it Wish It, Want It, something or other? Yeah, and talking about those
Mhm.
lines that and the show
Mhm.
made a parody of him being critiqued for being very generalistic to someone, and then he ends up being exposed as like the cynical fraud because he didn't even believe in the purpose in the first place. Anyway, random tangent over. Um, if you're sitting there thinking, well, how does this work for me? It could start with simple questions of what do I want, how am I get that, and what does that look like for me, and what don't I want. Now, often we skip to that last question, like I don't want, stress in my life, or I don't want,
Mhm.
this. But when we flip that around, okay, what do you want? That's when your subconscious, all those parts that Nisa outlined, your spirit, your mind, your body, your belief system, all this kind of thing starts to listen. Now, indeed, it might have some cynicism to begin with, going, I'm still not convinced. What do you mean? And that's when your own comes back to things like courage, intrigue, curiosity, and the want. The want is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not going to subliminally start singing the Spice Girls, wannabe song. No one needs to hear that. But essentially, the ethos there is like, well, when you ask yourself, right, what do I want, and articulate that as best you can, that's not the end of the journey. Right, okay, I've said what I want, and the universe will put it together. It's like, well, that's actually a starting point, because now you've defined to your system, going, this is what we're going for, and your system will go, right, tell me more. Or it might go, what? No, not that. At which point you might want to re-ask it, and this is not about dragging an answer out each time. If you're finding you're not coming to an answer, whatever the question is, that's okay. Give yourself some time, give yourself some space, whichever, and your system will, twig into what you're trying to do. Now, this all sounds like, a bit of magic or random work, but it goes beyond that. It's more about, as I said, it might sound like a broken record, but it really is it. It's about things like practice. It's about giving your system more evidence. Either way, is this thing going to work for me? Is this thing going to not? And then also the consistency. So you might come up with something, that might seem alien to other people. Whatever it is, a life decision, a career decision, relationship decision, whatever it might be. But when you can confidently go, okay, I can see the possibilities of what might happen, not just people's reactions, but the scenario playing out. Now, if I can get comfortable with the worst thing happening, for example, in a scenario, then that's okay. Then actually what happens doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I'll share more of that in probably another episode, because I want to get back to the great conversation we're having with Nisaa here. But Nisaa, I wondered if you just had some final thoughts for the audience as we sort of, I'm just seeing that we're coming up to the hour now. And again, like with all my guests, we could go on for ages. But I wondered if you had some like final steps of your journey or path that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah. So the song "Living Proof" by David and Nicole Binion, I think is how you pronounce their last name. "Living Proof" sums up my life as far as I'm concerned, and that song speaks to being living proof that God is on the move. And coming from where I come from, and having gone through what I've gone through, sometimes people, I have gotten some of this feedback, and some of it I am making a bit of a speculation with. Okay. Sometimes people tend to think that individuals who are speaking about the topics that we're talking about today haven't had much of issue in life. Things must just be easy for you. Things are not challenging. They usually think one of two things: that you're either lying somehow, you can't possibly be living, the way that you're saying that you're living, or something must be different and special about you that you don't really know what life is like. And so I've shared a little bit about what life has been for me, and without hyperbole or exaggeration, what was plausible for my life was to be dead or in jail.
Wow.
I walked through, it took me, people look at credentials and degrees and things at this point in my life, and it took me 12 years to complete my bachelor's degree. 12 years. I know loss. I know significant loss. I know pain. And like I said, I know what it's like to not think or believe that I am worthy or enough. And to come to the place where today my entire life is showing up in service to people. And that is what fills my life. And as you talked about reaching goals, what comes to mind is I know what it feels like to check all the boxes, to hit the marks of the things that you thought that you wanted, or the things that would then say that you are successful and that you've made it. I don't even know where it is, but somehow we're trying to get there. That you made it. I know what it feels like to get to that space and then wonder if that was all there was. and or figure out that this is not what I wanted anyway.
Yeah.
See, I believe that goal attainment without soul fulfillment is a special kind of misery, a special kind of ask me how I know. And so that's been my journey. And when I hear that song, the fact that I'm still here today, the fact that I was given choice back and then I decided to hand my life over to Jesus Christ and live in a way that is dedicated into love and service to other people, I am living proof. If anybody needs any proof, here it is for you that different is possible, that miracles do happen, and that you do have the power to live this out. And another song that not live mine but live yours, right? A song, Kevin LeVar, it's called Your Destiny. And it starts off by saying, this is not the time to get distracted. This is not the time to go off course, right? And so I want to encourage anyone who is listening that, like, you have it in you, you know, the greatness is there. You were meant for greatness. So go be great. That's why you were created for greatness. So go manifest that. You were created on purpose, with purpose, for a purpose. This is just a journey of us living out what that is, manifesting that in a way that, again, is fulfilling for us, and we are able to live out a life that we identify as positive, meaningful, significant, successful, if we want to use those words. And, you know, I would just say that each of us is someone's hope and blueprint. You are what they need to see to believe that different is possible. You are. Your life, your background, your experience, your challenges. See, we exploit struggles and obstacles around here now. We exploit them. We get everything that they showed up to give us. In fact, we don't even have struggles and obstacles. We have strength training and opportunities. That's what we have. But you are to show up and be the map and blueprint and light for others to believe that different is possible and identify a course that they can get started on so that they can walk their own path, so that they can light the way for other people. And again, we're only going to do that if we are at least aiming towards self-mastery.
Wow. I mean, I'm tempted just to drop the mic there, to be honest. But I mean, that's such a succinct, powerful summary that I hope people, as I say, watching or listening to this, will be inspired to hear more from you, which I'm definitely sure they will. So do you just want to let people know where they can find you to find out more from you?
Sure. The easiest would probably be lifeondemandacademy.com, lifeondemandacademy.com, because there my links to social media are included there, because I know that's where people live now, right? Like
Right.
social media. I am on most of the social media apps. My handle is either Nisaa Robinson, just my name, or it is I am Nisaa Robinson on social media apps.
Brilliant. Nisaa, thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. As I said, I'm sure we could have gone on for much further, probably, I don't know, definitely bring you back for a future episode. But once again, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you and the space.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Please do like and comment with your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and sign up to be on the show. Feel supersonic.